Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier is one of my favorite books of all time. While reading it, I felt like I was an instrument being played by the author, feeling exactly what she wanted me to feel, even though the book was released in 1938 and I was reading it with my little 2021 brain. And it is tense, very tense, and very suspenseful. So I obviously ducked from the 2020 Netflix adaptation and was carefully optimistic when I hit play on the 1940 Rebecca, since it was directed by Alfred Hitchcock and he's supposed to be this horror/suspense genius, right? Oh, how wrong I was. Hi. My name is Liv, and this is I didn't like any of the Rebecca movies. In this video, I'm gonna compare the different versions of Rebecca, and it contains spoilers. I'm gonna spoil the whole thing. So go ahead, go read the entire thing, and come back when you're done. Okay, if it's been a while since you've read it or you're simply too lazy, let's start from the beginning. Last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again. It seemed to me I stood by the iron gate to the drive, and for a while I could not enter, for the way was barred to me. There was a padlock and a chain upon the gate. I called in my dream to the lodge-keeper and had no answer, and peering closer through the rusted spokes of the gate, I saw that the lodge was uninhabited. So we follow the main character, she has no name, and she meets Max de Winter as a naive girl. His wife, Rebecca, died the previous year, and everyone says that he was devastated by it since he adored Rebecca. But anyways, the main character and Maxime de Winter get married and soon move to Manderley. As the book goes on, the main character feels more and more oppressed by the metaphorical ghost of Rebecca. Everyone loved her. How could she ever compare? And there is a lot of mystery about what happened. No one ever clarifies anything to her. She has to discover things on her own. She comes from a lower social class, so she has absolutely no idea how to deal with running a house the size of Manderley. And she's just thrown into this life out of nowhere, and Maxime is no great help either. When things are reaching a crescendo and Rebecca's old maid, Mrs. Danvers, almost convinces Mrs. de Winter of jumping out of a window, they find a boat by the sea, sunken, very near the shore. It's Rebecca's. Everyone said that she had sailed out on her boat on a stormy night and never returned, and then her body was found 2 months later, completely mutilated and disfigured. But they say there's a body in the boat. What's going on here? The main character finally manages to get Maxime to tell her about Rebecca. She seduced him, then after they married, she revealed horrible things about herself. Things that he won't even dare to repeat. Rebecca knew that Maxime would never ask for divorce. He cared about his reputation way too much. So they make a deal. They would play the part of a perfect couple, and she would make Manderley the most stunning place on earth. But she would continue to live exactly as she pleased. And he accepted because he wanted to dodge the scandal and he loved Manderley more than anything else. The years went by and she became careless with her affairs, especially with her affair with her cousin Jack Favell. One night, Rebecca comes back earlier from London, and Maxim knows that she's with Jack Favell in her little cottage by the sea. He had warned her that she couldn't bring her affairs to Manderley, so he goes there with a pistol, ready to kill Jack. When he gets to the cottage, Rebecca's alone, but she starts insinuating that she was pregnant, and that her cousin was the father, and that Maxim would have to raise the child as his own. But the last straw is when she mentions that the bastard would inherit Manderley. Overcome with rage, Maxim shoots her. Then he put her body in the boat and sunk it. And now he would be discovered. The main character makes her choice. She chooses to stay by his side and lie. And even though they lie, the trial is not going well. Mrs. Danvers is seething with rage at the prospect of her old friend having been murdered by the man she is employed by. Actually, it's not just a prospect. She knows, somehow. Jack Favell shows up with a note that Rebecca wrote him the day before she died, saying, "Come to the cottage tonight, I have something to tell you." And that derails the whole she did herself in theory. It is discovered that Rebecca had gone to a doctor that day, so everyone gets together and drives to London to find out why she went to the doctor. This is the final piece of evidence that is going to probably convict Maxim of murder. But the doctor has other news for them. I remember her words exactly. "I want to know the truth," she said. "If I'm really ill, I want to know." So I told her. There was nothing to be done, he went on. An operation would have been useless. I told her that. In 6 months, she would have been dead. So, cancer. Against all odds, what they find out actually helps Maxim's case, that she did herself in because of the illness and the body they found later was just a mistake. Maxim and Mrs. De Winter eat at a restaurant in London, and Maxim says, "I'm not sure that Rebecca hasn't won, even now." The main character tries to reassure him, and they drive back to Manderley, and the main character falls asleep. When they're close by, she wakes up and sees something weird. The sun seems to be rising from the wrong direction, and it's too early for that. But it isn't the sun. It's Manderley, burning. Okay, so to me, what makes Rebecca a masterpiece and not just like this murder mystery romance is 1. How the character of Rebecca progresses. It starts out as just a shadow in Maxim's past, but she grows and grows as this increasingly powerful and oppressive entity until Maxim talks about her. The first time we actually see a description of a scene with her, not just glimpses of old shadows and faded perfume. Just a dead woman, nothing to worry about. A skeleton in a boat. And then, at the end, yes, in your mind, you know that it was Mrs. Danvers who set Manderley on fire, but in your heart, you know that it was Rebecca. She's almost a deity again, and she won. And point number 2 that I really love, and something that people don't usually talk about, which listen, I get it. This is an old lady classic. Your grandma probably loved this one, my grandma loved it, every woman over the age of 70 loves this book. But, guys, seriously, no one I talked to about Rebecca realized that it's about a man killing both of his wives. Don't believe me? Let's start with the main character. She's only referred to as Mrs. De Winter. And yeah, this is used to put her beneath Rebecca, who was the former Mrs. De Winter. See what I said there? She's Rebecca. The main character is simply Mrs. De Winter. There is also next to no romance between her and Maxim. He clearly just picked her because she was the opposite of Rebecca, and she just went along with her Cinderella fantasy. And in the end, when he confesses the murder and Mrs. De Winter is telling him to lie, he said that her kind of innocence is gone. So yeah, he literally just married her for that. And then he crushed her under all this pressure. He crushed her prospects of happiness. He crushed her autonomy. He crushed everything. Right after the iconic Last Night I Dreamt I Went to Manderley Again, the main character talks a bit about her current life. How she longs to be back in England, but Maxim doesn't want to. How she wants to talk about her dreams of Manderley, but it would upset Maxim. She never talks about her art ever again, and she used to sketch all the time. But I am with my husband, and he is all I need. His first wife, Rebecca, he killed literally. The second, he stifled her wants, her personality, her everything, really. These are the 2 points that make Rebecca truly extraordinary. And then...
Last night, I dreamt I went to Manderley again. It seemed to me I stood by the iron gate leading to the drive, and for a while I could not enter, for the way was barred to me. Then, like all dreamers, I was possessed of a sudden with
Cut! No. It's all wrong. You hear how her voice is dreamy and airy in this? That's what they did to the whole story. That's what Hitchcock did to the whole story. Everything is too lighthearted. Everything is too bright. My reading of this line might have been kinda wonky, but I'm not an actress. Listen, I'll give credit where credit is due. The movie is beautiful. The actors are really charismatic, like they carry the whole movie. And I actually liked that they added a more believable romance between the main character and Maxim. Still kinda stiff, still kinda weird, but I don't just forget that they're a couple. And I think that the stiff, weird kind of vibe works for these two. But the rest... oh brother!
This guy stinks!
I'm not that kind of person who expects a one-to-one adaptation, but I do expect the adaptation to have a similar vibe. And they managed not to succeed. Like, Hitchcock is supposed to be this mastermind, and he couldn't do this, suspenseful book justice. And he could have just turned the lights down a little bit and make the characters more somber. Like, you could have done it, but you didn't. Remember the Rebecca graph I showed earlier? This is what the Rebecca graph looks like for this movie. It's nothing. The title is Rebecca. How could you do this? Like, she just flatlined. It's just a romance story, And then the ending. Instead of an ending of quiet defeat and that realization of what's happening sinking in, we get a triumphant ending. Why? Like, it's the same, like, Manderley burns down and all, but the framing, it's like, oh my god, did anyone get hurt? Oh, you're okay, and they hug and they kiss, and the end, Like, the ending is so important for Rebecca's character arc, the thing I love the most about Rebecca, and it flopped. But fine. This isn't a good adaptation, but I can admit that it's a good movie at least. No! Oh my god, okay, it's a Netflix movie. I can excuse the modern movie moments. What I can't excuse is that they, once again, can't manage the Rebecca graph. This movie is 2 hours long and they had the time. They could have used it to build that oppressive atmosphere, to have important conversations, and to be tense and suspenseful. But you know what they did with it? Filled it with pointless surreal dream sequences. Yeah. And then the ending again. What's so difficult about the ending? Instead of them calmly going to the doctor to see why Rebecca had seen him, it turns into a Maxime has been arrested and only the main character can save him. Because only the main character knows about this doctor visit, so she steals the documents and saves the day. And in the end, it's like, love conquers all, now we're free to live our lives however we want. I don't even remember if the house burns down, but I mean, probably it's the iconic scene. And then the movie keeps going, like Mrs. Danvers does herself in, and like, why? I'm not against you buying the rights to something and just turning it upside down into something completely different, but if you wanted a period drama, romance, mystery thing that ends with a girl power, love conquers all, the woman saves the day, you should have strayed further from the original. For example, giving Mrs. De Winter a name, because this is basic. This is basic storytelling, and this movie is bad. This movie takes away the things I love the most about Rebecca and replaces them with nothing. So yeah, read the book. But wait, what's that? So yeah, apparently there's another Rebecca adaptation, a miniseries from 1997. And I actually liked it. Obviously, it has its flaws. It's a TV miniseries. But they changed the story and tone just enough that it's not super jarring whenever it deviates from the book. As I was saying, the other ones try to kind of follow or recreate the book as closely as possible and just change some little things here and there, and they flopped because of it. It's kind of like, imagine that you're dressing for like this super formal wedding. You have the whole glam look down. Dress, shoes, makeup, hair, everything. And then you show up and like a Ronald McDonald necklace, you know. It's gonna look insane. But if your dress is red and your makeup is a little bit clownish, it's not gonna be like, what the hell is this Ronald McDonald necklace? Also, you might be thinking, oh god, Tywin Lannister is too old for this role. Don't worry, it's TV movie quality, so it's not noticeable for the most part. Also, some of the acting is just tastefully tacky. I'd rewatch this. The 1997 version also did a pretty well job with the Rebecca graph. They kinda dropped the ball in the end, but I can accept that. It's just different, Rebecca from a slightly alternate universe, where, you know, Maxime and Mrs. De Winter are happy together, and I'm at peace with that. Yeah, here's my very obvious ranking of the Rebecca incarnations. Thank you so much for watching this. Like, subscribe, blah 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 blah, and I'll make more videos if a Neville doesn't follow my head. Bye!